love lives here.
All right. So this year here at Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide, we are working with the theme of living everyday wonder. It's right there on that banner, living everyday wonder. And something that I heard at the convention by one of our young people, Charlie Usi. He is a young man out of the Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living, and he had a brief address to the larger audience there in the convention. And he said, embrace the wow. I love that. I love to see the evolution of this. So I'm thinking like, live everyday wonder, embrace the wow, right? So this is our theme for this year. And this is also the theme for the month. And so what we've been working with this month is we started off with just kind of living everyday wonder and really painting a broader picture. And then we dove into wonder everywhere, like everywhere we look, everything we see, that we open ourselves up to the possibility of wonder. And then we embraced the now. We began to look at embracing the now. And one of the definitions of curiosity is to bring our attention, our focused attention to our immediate experience and embracing the now and allowing the now to reveal the perfection of the moment, because in the now, everything is good in the immediate moment. One of the other things, because it was embrace the now, it was so great. Embrace the now was one of our other young ministers said that embrace the now because it's always right on time. I was like, clever. I like that. Right on, Chris, Ashley. So, yeah, so it was very great to hear that too. So it's embracing the now. And remember when we talked about embracing the now, we were talking about the possibility of turning to and relating to our experiences rather than relating from our experiences. You remember that? Relating to our experiences rather than relating from our experiences. So this week, what we're doing is we're going to relate to some experiences rather than relating from our experiences. And we're going to do that with the idea of questions. Question everything, because questions themselves hold within them possibilities. When there's a question, there's a possibility. There's usually at least two possibilities if it's a yes, no, or a either or. There's at least two possibilities, but there's infinite possibilities when we open to questions and when we approach life from a place of questioning. How many of you have ever had a 3-year-old in your life? Yeah, everybody, right? Yeah. Oh, geez, right? You already know where this is going, right? It's like, why? Why? Why is the sky blue? Why is water wet? Why? Because, exactly, because it is, right? So the why, right? They frequently ask why. So young children tend to ask on a daily average between 70 and 100 questions. And for some of you, it's like, no, that's way too low of a number. My grandson asked me at least 1,000 a day, right? So, Trisha. So, it's so they because they ask these questions because they're really curious to learn. They're curious to know more about their environment. They're curious to learn more about their experience. They are trying to fit things in and like take it all in and understand what's going on and what's happening. And they're breathing it in and they're just naturally curious about life. And it sparks their imagination. It's like, well, if that's true, then, could this be true, right? I mean, they're not saying it like that, but if the sky is blue, why is water blue? Or why is this blue? Right? There's all these questions that continue to expand their consciousness, expand their awareness, and expand their understanding. And then what happens? We're born with natural curiosity. And then as we get a little bit older, maybe a little bit older still, our curiosity maybe is not always there at the forefront, that we're not always seeing things with the eyes of a child. It's like we know why certain things are the way they are. We think we know. That's usually what it is. We think we know why things are the way they are, right? And so as adults, the same study says that adults tend to ask maybe 20 questions a day. Maybe. And usually they're limited questions, or they're very short answer questions. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. Let's go out. Right? Hi, honey. Right? Or it's a yes or no questions, that we tend to ask. It's just a quick information gathering, but it's not really a delving into. And even when we say, hi, how are you? Are we really wanting an answer to that question? Or how was your day? Fine. Yeah, exactly. It was. Okay, great. Right? So what we have the opportunity, my beloveds, to do is when we question everything, is we have the opportunity to think about these things and think about our experiences and bringing our full attention to our awareness, full attention to our now moment, and then begin to approach it with a sense of curiosity, begin to approach whatever is occurring for us, good, bad, indifferent, approach whatever is occurring for us with questions and curiosity. It's like, I wonder about that. What is that really, truly like? How really was your day? I'm really, truly curious about your day and what you achieved. And, as we were talking about earlier on in the month, like, what did you notice today that sparked joy or that caused you to experience awe and wonder? You feel how much more open that is and how much more connecting that is and how much more like curious it is and how there's much more of a conversation that's possible, right? That we begin to ask these questions, we begin to ask new questions because we tend not to think of new questions to ask. We tend just to ask the same old questions over and over and over and over, right? But when we begin to ask new questions about experiences or about our life or what we are experiencing, going, I wonder why this is happening right now. What's really behind my experience in the moment? What is the lesson in this for me? Or, wow, this is such a joyous thing that I'm experiencing. What else brings me joy? How else could I experience joy? How is it that I'm feeling in my body right now when I'm experiencing joy? We begin to ask these questions, and then what happens? We're back to being a kid again, and all of a sudden the possibilities, the range of possibilities open to greater and greater things in greater and greater ways, yes? So one of the questions that's really fun to ask, and because a 3-year-old asks it all the time, is why? Now we tend to be like, no, you shouldn't ask why. It's not up to us to find out why or to know why things are the way it's. But why is such a useful question too, that we shouldn't just let it go by the wayside. Toyota, as in the car manufacturer, right? Toyota was founded by a man named Toyoda, okay? The man who founded it, his last name, Toyoda, for the car company, Toyota. So just wanted to clarify that for our Japanese Americans and our Japanese speaking friends, that it is Toyoda is the person, Toyota is the car. Anyway, good. Why, right? So Mr. Toyota came up with a question, exactly that, Cindy, of asking why. He calls it the 5 whys. And so 5 whys the 5 whys tool is really what helps Toyota both innovate as well as continue to move forward and problem solve, to refine problems. So the way the 5 whys are used, the way that those 5 whys are used is there's a situation, there's a problem, there's a challenge. And so then they ask a series of 5 whys. Why is this challenge happening? Why did this thing occur? And then they drill down using the 5 whys to drill down to get to the root cause. Sound familiar? They get down to the root cause of whatever it is, and then once they've arrived at a root cause, then they can begin to use the 5 whys to then innovate to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So if you think about this, we do this with our science of mind, spiritual mind treatments. Yes, we do this when we are wanting to change our lives. What do? We drill down. We recognize that, this cannot be, right? And so we recognize this cannot be. And then we begin to look at, well, what's behind this? What's behind this experience? What helped this experience occur? Where along the way did this idea enter? Where along the way did this idea come into being, or this idea enter my mind, or this belief come in? And how is this belief related to, how is this belief related to the experience? Right? So we drill down, and then once we drill down, then there it is. We get to that thing, and then we can set a new cause in motion, right? We set a new cause in motion by beginning to change the way we're thinking about something, or we begin to shift the belief, and as we shift the belief that we're planting into the fertile soil of spirit, we begin then to see changes in our life, right? So here's the 5 whys doing the exact same thing that we do, that was originated in Japan. Not by Ernest Holmes there, but beautiful. Look at the timeless wisdom. There's only one mind, it just shows up differently, right? And then Mr. Toyota also used it to innovate. So it wasn't just used to drill down to the problem, it was also like, hey, why would we want to change the way we do our production lines? Why should we do that? Why should we create new systems? Why should we? And so doing the 5 whys in the opposite direction, rather than drilling down, doing the 5 whys in the opposite direction and asking questions, getting more and more expansive, because the more questions we ask, the more possibilities. And then expanding out, it's like, oh, maybe we should do that because it's healthier for our employees. Maybe we should do that because it'll bring something new to market, or it'll bring a whole new way of being, or a whole new way of driving. Hello, Prius, right? The technology, right? And just developing the technology to be able to have, a greener environment overall, right? So those are the 5 whys. So that's your transformation tool number 1, Allison. Okay? That's your transformation tool number 1. The 5 whys. So in your life, you can apply this to your own self, as we've been talking about. You can drill down and go, oh, I'm not liking that situation, so let's shift it. Do spiritual mind treatment, get assistance from a prayer practitioner, perhaps, but let's drill down and shift it. Or we could be experiencing some kind of something, like we're curious about something and we want to expand out and really innovate and really change and really grow. And it's like, wow, I have this really great idea, but why? And think of how much more expansive that could be. Here's tool number 2. The other transformation tool number 2 around questions is when there is a problem, as we heard, when there is a problem, what's the answer? Jeff just sang about it. God is the answer, right? But so Karen Russo shared with us earlier this week all problems, all challenges are mental challenges or mental problems. All solutions are spiritual. Oh, that's exactly what happened in the room that I was in, too. That all problems are mental. They're in this construct, they're in this realm of existence, but the solution is in the spiritual. Just as Einstein said, we can't solve a problem at the level of the consciousness that created it. So we can't solve a problem from the mental realm. So the best place to solve a problem, or the best place to go to an answer, is to, as Homer Johnson used to say, go upstairs, right? To go upstairs and listen and be open and available. So what the possibility is here is to, when there is a difficulty or there is a challenge, then the opportunity here is to begin to ask questions. Generate a list of questions. Begin generating a list of questions. Don't try and brainstorm a solution. Start brainstorming more questions, because more questions lead to what? More possibilities. So become curious. Allow yourself to become even more curious about what the experience is. And then once you've generated this list of questions that might help you get a different perspective on your experience, then begin to inquire, begin to ask, begin a sacred inquiry of spirit. Take those questions in, because frequently what we're doing is we're trying to seek the answers from outside ourselves. We're trying to seek the answers from out here. We go to Google. All right, Google, give me the answer, quick, right? We go to Google, we go to each other, we go to friends. Back in the day, we would go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, right? But it's searching outside of ourselves. But what do we know is that there is only one mind, one power, one divine wisdom, and it resides where? It resides within. So rather than seeking the answer without, we have the opportunity to seek the answer from within. Ernest Holmes says, we believe in the direct revelation through our intuitive and spiritual ability, nature, and that everyone can be a revealer of truth who lives in direct contact or close contact with the Spirit, with God. And so it is a matter of going in. And so this then becomes a sacred inquiry. It becomes a sacred inquiry of spirit rather than Google, right? It becomes a sacred inquiry of spirit where we turn within and we take those questions into the silence, into that still small space, into that space, as Jeannie so beautifully said earlier, where there are no questions. There's just the answer. Because Spirit already knows. Divine wisdom already is. We know that we know that we know that we know. That presence, that clarity is there. And so we have the opportunity to make contact with that, make direct contact with that, and then pose the question there. Ask it of Spirit. Surrender it to Spirit. Turn it over to Spirit. And the more that we practice this, the sharper our intuition becomes, the sharper our hearing, our inner ear becomes. We become attuned to it. So sacred inquiry, yes, can be done through visioning, of course, right? Through our visioning process of what is Spirit's highest idea for my life? What is Spirit's highest idea of this situation? What must I release? What must I embrace? What must I become? And is there anything else for me to know? But it is also an opportunity as a practice of spiritual discernment where we take these questions that we've been talking about, and we can take these questions and ask them of Spirit. And the more we practice that, the more attuned we become, that then we have an ear already tuned to the intuitive self. We have an ear attuned to the spiritual self. We have an ear attuned to the divine wisdom that is within. And so we are more capable of hearing it when it speaks. So tool number 3, my beloveds, An easy way to continue to build this intuitive sense, to continue to build this, is in our what? Everyday lives, do you think? Right? So it can be as simple as going to the end of your driveway and saying, pausing for a moment, and just asking, which way do I turn today? That simple. And just waiting for an answer. It could be every time you see a menu from a restaurant or something, that you have the menu and it's like, you might already have an idea of what you want, but you can also just say, what nourishes my body today? What does my palate wish to experience today? Right? And then just open and be available to that. So by asking those questions and by willing to take that pause and just be present with that, we're opening to a greater revelation. We're opening and we are establishing a more direct, right relationship with Spirit in which we are listening. We are attuning ourselves to listen, to hear, and to be guided by Spirit rather than trying to Spirit, I want a husband. Spirit, I want a Big Mac. Spirit, I want a parking place, right? That we're opening. So what is the best for me in this moment? What is the best solution in this moment? What is the best in this moment? What's the highest and best in this moment? Ernest Holmes says this about inquiry, and I love this. He says, the entire inquiry of the science of mind is an inquiry into the relationship between God and the individual. And so far as we establish a right relationship, we shall have a corresponding power. The entire inquiry of science of mind is an inquiry into the relationship between God, Spirit, and the individual, us. And the more that we are in right relationship with that, Spirit, the more there is a corresponding power that we experience, right? Because we are coming into alignment with, we are listening, and so then Spirit shows up through and as our life in ways that are readily recognizable to us. And so we have the opportunity, my beloveds, to live in the question, to be in the question, to stay in the question, rather than just jumping to a conclusion. We have the opportunity to stay in the question, to be in right relationship. Jacqueline Winspar says this. It's so beautiful. I love this. Ready? Truth walks in on the paths of our questions. Truth walks in on the paths of our questions. And as soon as you think you have an answer, you've closed the path and are missing opportunities for more vital information. Wait a while in the silence. Wait a while in the stillness. And do not rush to conclusions, no matter how uncomfortable the unknowing is. Truth walks toward us on the path of our questions. If we're willing to be present and to be still and to listen, the answer is revealed. So living in the question creates that spaciousness, and it creates that openness to where Spirit may answer us from. Because doesn't Spirit usually answer you in a weird way? I know it answers me in weird ways. I put out the question or I put something out, and then all of a sudden it's like, not weird way, but unexpected ways. But Spirit answers in the everyday if we're paying attention to the everyday, if we're embracing the now. Spirit answers in the everyday. Spirit answers in that line from a movie, right? Spirit answers in that meme on social media. Spirit reveals the answer through that conversation you're having with a friend that you didn't realize was going to do that, the casual conversation. Spirit is always showing up. Spirit's always speaking. Spirit's always willing to reveal if we will but hear. And it usually happens in our everyday, which is why living everyday wonder is so amazing and so important for us. And Mary O'Malley, from the book, What's in the Way is the Way. I love this too, because it's true, and it feels like a word of warning, but it's absolutely true, and it's so powerful. And she says, asking a question signals the universe that you are ready to live the answer. And then life lives it through you at the appropriate time. Asking a question signals to the universe, hey, universe, I'm ready to live this answer. Bring it on. And life's going to go, sure thing, here you go. But at the appropriate time. And we also know that the appropriate time is not always our time. It's like, Spirit, I wanted an answer 3 weeks ago and I'm still waiting. No, Spirit shares it when we are available to hear it, as it is most beneficial for us to hear it, as it is most beneficial for us to experience it. So when we ask questions, we are opening to an infinite higher good. When we ask questions and we make that sacred inquiry and we listen to Spirit, we listen and we open to Spirit and we continue to live in the question, we begin to live a life of curiosity. We begin to live that life of grace, that life of Spirit. And we are then guided. Every step of the way is guided and governed by Spirit. And when Spirit is leading the way, you're not going to get lost. You can't get lost. So, beloveds, question everything. And know that Spirit, God, is the answer. And so it is. All right, I invite our practitioners and our ministers to please stand and surround the sanctuary. As they do, I want to remind you that Amber and Jeannie are available for prayer in the prayer room immediately following the service for a brief moment of prayer. And these beloveds are always in service to this community, holding this community and lifting it in love and light and prayer. And I also invite our core council members who are present to also please stand and join them as well. So let's just come together and in that space, and we turn within in that space, as Jeannie so beautifully opened this morning, that space that knows no question, that simply is the answer. That space where Spirit resides, that space where Spirit is, and that space is everywhere present because there is only the one life, there is only the one Spirit, there is only the one power, there is only the one infinite wisdom, the infinite intelligence of the universe, forever making itself known, forever expressing itself as love, as joy, as peace, as harmony, forever expressing itself as life itself. And so I recognize that I am one with this one is the very who of who I am, that right where I am, Spirit is, that right where I am, wisdom is, that right where I am, the answer is, right where I am, God is, I am, God is. Right here, right now. And as I know that this is true of me, I know that this is true of all of life, of all of creation, of everyone present here this day, always and forever, that each one is a divine emanation, impartation of the one life, the one Spirit, the one presence. Each one is an expression of the one mind, a transparency for the wisdom of the ages that moves through each one. Each one is a direct vehicle, a vessel for the infinite love intelligence that is forever creating, forever expanding, forever expressing. And I know that we are one with each other, that we are inseparable from each other. There is no me, there is no other. There simply is the one. And so I speak my word for this beloved community, Riverside Center for Spiritual Living, and all of the lives that are part of this one life of this center. I speak a word of blessing here and now, recognizing that we open to the infinite possibilities that our questions arise. We open to this divine knowledge. We open to the direct revelation of Spirit. We are a vehicle, a vessel, a transparency through which Spirit makes itself known on this plane of existence in this time. We say, use me, Spirit, use me, use us to be your hands, your life, your expression on earth. Command our hands that what we must do. Command our life. We say yes, and we surrender into that. We surrender to Spirit, and trusting and knowing that we are divinely guided, knowing that we are divinely guarded, knowing that Spirit goes before us and prepares the way, making the crooked places straight. We say yes to opening, to listening, to hearing the word of Spirit as it gently guides, as it gently moves, as it gently ushers us into a greater, more fuller expansion of who we are, of what we have come here to do, of what we have come here to be, of how we have come here to serve each other, and serve all of life in the universe. Oh, and how wonderful it is to know this, how wonderful it is to be a part of this, how wonderful it is to be a revealer of truth. And so we allow the truth to continue to walk toward us on the path of our questions, and we continue to walk toward truth. And there we meet, and we know, and we know, and we know. And so I give thanks for this day. I give thanks for this beloved community. I give thanks for the sacred yes that is pulling each one forward. I give thanks for the sacred yes of service that allows us to do the great work that we do in the world, allowing us to be the love that we are in greater and greater ways. And I release this into the law, knowing that it is already done, knowing that the answer has already been given. I let it be, and together we affirm, and so it is.
Love